Lenny was ready, and I just jumped into them. Look at that. Lenny, you're good? All right, we're going to do this over. Welcome, folks, to the Town of Mount Pleasant Planning Board meeting, regularly scheduled for February 6, 2025. First up, we have business items. Those are items that we have reviewed in the past. They're minutes, they're resolutions, and things of that nature. The board has received them, and they're going to comment or question them or not, and then we'll make a decision if we accept them or not. So first up on business items, we have 3 sets of minutes that staff has prepared. Acceptance of minutes drafted from the 12/5/2024, 12/16/2024, and 1/2/2025 Planning Board meeting. Those are minutes. Any questions or comments on those? I'll go one at a time. So for 12/5, any comments or questions on 12/5 minutes?
Make a motion to approve 12/5 minutes?
Motion from John,
Second.
second from Eileen. Walter?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
And aye for me. Next up, 12/16/2024 minutes. Any comments or questions from board members?
Make a motion to approve 12/16/2024 minutes?
Motion from John,
Second.
second from Eileen. Walter?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
And JD?
Aye.
Okay, good to go. Last one up, January 2nd, 2025, minutes from the meeting. Any questions or comments?
Let's go for the hat trick.
Okay,
1/2/25 minutes.
there you go. John? John's good. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Walter?
Aye. I'll second it.
Oh, second. I missed this whole thing up. Look at this.
I'll second.
Second, but a second from JD. We're going to do a do-over. Walter?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
And JD? And an aye for me. Okay, so all the minutes are approved. We'll see if we can be error-free from now on. We'll see. DEP contract number 2, Kensico, review and adoption of resolution of approval of site plan application number PSP 24-9 for the development of subsurface downtake shaft and tunnel rock excavation and vent structure for the conveyance of water, Westlake Drive, Kensico Campus, Valhalla, New York, SBL 117.11-3-1, R40 zone, owner NYC DEP Bureau of Water Supply. So this was reviewed by the board. We asked the consultant to draft the resolution. He has prepared the resolution, and now the board is going to decide if they accept the resolution as written. Any questions or comments from the board?
Will recuse myself from this one?
John's going to recuse himself. Any other comments or questions on the resolution? Let the record show there's no comments. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion from Jane,
I'll second.
second from JD. Walter?
Aye.
Jane? Eileen?
Aye.
And JD.
Aye.
Okay, we're doing good, guys. We have one more. And there's only one here, yes, okay. Number 3, request for a 90-day extension of subdivision approval number SD 20-6 for the development of a 4-story, 170-unit service-enriched senior housing residence, Brightview Senior Living. Subdivision application number SD 20-6, site plan application number SP 20-012, steep slope application SS 20-15, 364 and 236 Grasslands Road, Valhalla, New York, 117.17-1-28. Grasslands Estate, owner Brightview Senior Living Development, contract Ven D. Okay, so that's an extension of an application we've already approved. Any questions or comments on this?
Is that first extension or?
It is their first extension for the subdivision, that's correct.
This extension is due to Department of Health issues?
Yeah, and Siri can explain their ability.
Actually, David Cooper, partner with the law firm Mazarin and Steinmetz, here representing the applicant. It makes my trip down here worthwhile because I didn't realize that my partner Corey was here on another matter, so now it was embarrassing that yes, we are seeking 90 days because we're still working through DOH to get their signature. I'm sure the board is is aware, it takes some time sometimes with the DOH in general. So we expect it soon, but the issue was your next meeting date in March is actually, I think, after it's like the 91st date, so we're here a little early than normal, but we needed it to extend it.
Okay.
Is there a significant issue that you're dealing with?
No, I think it's just the normal, backlog at the DOH.
Administrative.
And yeah.
And the most we can do is 90 days. So you may be back
I may be.
again to extend it again.
Unless Corey's here too, then.
Okay, okay. Any other questions, Walter?
No more questions.
Any other questions from other board members? Okay. So we have to make a decision on what we're going to do with this extension request.
I'll make a motion, we grant the extension for 90 days.
Motion from Jane,
Second.
second from Eileen. Walter,
Aye.
Jean, John, Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay, you're good to go.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Safe traffic tonight. Okay, so next up is what we call new applications. That's exactly as it sounds. It's a new application that the staff has reviewed. They've probably been reviewing this for some time, and now it's before us to see what we think about it and where it needs to go. So first up is proposed 399 Old Sleepy Hollow Road, Pleasantville, New York, subdivision of a one lot into two for the purposes of development of a single-family dwelling. Application PSD 25-01, location 399 Old Sleepy Hollow Road, Pleasantville, New York. Section block lot numbers 105.18-1-19 and 20, zone R40. Owner applicant is Joe and Zelima Montiel, is that correct?
Montiel.
Montiel, thank you. Engineering architect is ARQ Architecture PC. Welcome. State your name and all that for the record.
Yep. Good evening. For the record, Corey Salamo from Zarin and Steinmetz here tonight on behalf of the Montiels and the Reiches. Here with me this evening are JB Hernandez, the project architect. The Reiches are here with me, as is Mandy Santucci.
Okay.
So, as you said, the property is located at 399 Old Sleepy Hollow Road. It's approximately 5 acres in the R40 zoning district, currently improved with a single-family home and accessory structure. And oddly, the property, while it appears to be one lot, has 2 section block and lot numbers, and when you look at Westchester GIS, it comes up as 2 lots. So before I get into the subdivision application, I think a little context is appropriate here. The Reiches purchased the property in 2023, prior to our representation, and when they bought it, they had obviously an address, 399, there was a section block and lot number, a meets and bounds description, and that's how the property was transferred. When they went to the building department to talk about pulling a building permit application, they were told the lot wasn't on a subdivision plat, you don't have a zoning lot, you just essentially have an SBL. And as in the planner's memo, the lots apparently have been merged. So we're here trying to get this subdivision now so that the Reiches can build their single-family home and the Montiels can stay on their, their existing lot. So the subdivision, it's pretty straightforward. It's approximately 5 acres, as I said before. We're looking to subdivide it into a 1.7 acre lot, Lot 1, which has the existing single-family structure and an accessory structure, and then a 3 acre lot behind it, which will be improved with a single-family home and a pool. Pretty much as straightforward as that. One other thing I should mention, this property is subject to a special permit for a stable and horse boarding. In that special permit, it was issued, I believe, in '76. One of the conditions is that the property can never be subdivided while the special permit is in existence, so we're also looking to just terminate that special permit as well.
Okay.
So with that, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions or comments from board members?
Are you proposing the line that you're proposing, is that the one that you believe the 2 lots, the configuration of the 2 lots as it was?
Correct, and when you look at Westchester GIS, that tracks.
Okay. Is there a reason that you want that irregular kind of point going out?
I will
Does it serve
defer
any
to-
purpose?
There is no reason. It's just like, that was in the GIS and the tax map as we when we started the process.
Is it pre-existing,
It's
pre-existing map?
Yeah, and also may I add that we had gone through all the process. That is, the health department has approved the septic and all the stormwater on the new lot. All of that has been done already.
Okay, any other questions or comments from board members?
What are we gonna do with the horse?
I don't know. You want some?
Okay, so you've seen Mr. Cleary's note, right? There was a couple questions.
Yes.
You don't have to answer tonight, but there's a couple things about lighting and the driveway and site grading. So just try to get those questions answered. when
Our,
we
in-
get
yeah,
to that
our
point.
intent would be to submit a full comment response memo. We can
Yeah.
go through each point in Cleary's memo as well as the engineering memo that came out today.
Yeah, we don't need to go, unless the board members have specific questions. I guess the question we have before us tonight is this ready? Well, there's two questions. Number one is we have to make a decision if this, for SEQR, correct?
So I would recommend you designate your intent to be lead agency tonight. You can do that.
Yep.
Some of the comments relate to changes of the plan. So as Eileen pointed out, that little dog leg that sticks out.
Yeah.
It's not preferable if they straighten it out. It has no zoning issues, but we couldn't set a public hearing because the plan will change. So if they're going to come back with a revised plan, you need to see that first before you schedule the public hearing.
Okay, so we can knock out of the ballpark tonight, first of all, is the SEQR conversation. That's number one. And then the other conversation is the site plan. Are we changing it or not?
I mean, our intent was to leave it as is. If
Okay.
that's acceptable to the board, we would just keep it as is. I mean, there
So
are,
as you know, our position is create lots that are logical and appropriately shaped. That dog leg is weird,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't be there. It doesn't affect zoning compliance in any way, it really doesn't affect anything, and it would be a preference, as Eileen was indicating, to just straighten it out.
It has been a practice of the board, and there's been some odd-shaped lots in the past that we've asked them to make them more consistent, or make more logical sense. So I think it would be beneficial to the town, and to the applicant to some degree, to make it less odd. Is that a big ask?
I mean, we just have to go back to the surveyor and have all the plans essentially redone. We prefer not to, I mean, mostly because they're not square lots anyway. They're irregularly shaped. I mean, I certainly understand the board's preference, and I understand the
Yep.
policy behind it. And if we had square lots and it was just a tail, then I would
So
100%
let's-
acquiesce.
Let's do this. Let's get out of this situation a bit. I know what we can do tonight. I know we have to vote on the SEQR conversation. So why don't you talk to your client and talk to whomever you need to talk to, see if you want to do it or not. And then we can talk about next steps. Does that work for you? I have to talk to the board, obviously, but that's the first thing we have to talk about.
Yes, yeah, that works.
All right, so let's first get the SEQR out of the way, because I just want to get out of the way. So what is the intent of the board on the SEQR conversation? Do we declare ourselves as lead agent or not?
I make a motion that we declare ourselves lead agency for this project.
We have a motion from Eileen,
I'll second.
second from JD. Walter?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
And an aye for me.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to raise another issue. This is the first application we've seen this year since the DEC adopted their new wetland regulations. Those regulations are a significant change in the way the state regulates wetlands. And in a sense, they have abandoned the reliance on the state wetland maps and the 12.4 acre minimum lot areas, and they have now more discretion to control or assume the responsibility of issuing wetland permits for projects that were typically in the past local wetland permitting processes. There's a process by which you confer with the DEC, they issue a jurisdictional determination, and they have the authority now to control tiny little pockets of wetlands if they choose to do that. So this would be the first application that's come before you where the new regulations are in place.
And when was that effective? January 1st?
January 1st.
Do we send a referral to the DEC?
So no, I think, so you may know more than I do, Eileen. We're
You
figuring
clearly
this
know
out.
more than I do.
We're all
so.
figuring this out on the fly
Okay.
right now. And maybe some of the DEP folks know a little bit more about this than we do. My understanding is it's the applicant's obligation to contact the DEC and get a JD, a jurisdictional determination. The thing that's challenging about this, so this is, I'm not picking on this project, but we will need to deal with this for all of our projects. So I think it's the applicant's obligation to do this. If in fact the DEC must do this, they have 90 days to reach their jurisdictional determination, to say, no, it's your problem, you can deal with that wetland permit. 90 days. So theoretically, this has added an enormous amount of work to the DEC's workload and potentially a timing issue for local boards to deal with these jurisdictional determinations. So I don't know how this is going to shake out. The good news is I understand DEC hired 3 people to deal with this for New York State. So clearly there's a staffing problem and a timing issue with respect to this. I don't think any of us really know how this is going to work, but I just want you to be aware there's some new rules we all need to be aware of, and let's have the applicant help us figure out how best to.
Yeah, and I don't want the applicant to think, with all the things that we've mentioned, that we're intended to be obstructionists, and that's not the intent. We're here to shepherd the application through various steps along the way. And so that's what we're doing tonight. So we've gotten the secret conversation done. That's step number 1. There's the stuff that Pat mentioned. There's also a few things on Pat's Cleary's comments talking about the site utility, site grading, the Lot 2 driveway, landscape and lighting. So we would need that addressed anyway before we even had a public hearing. My preference, and typically the practice of the board, is to get those things dotted and I's dotted, the T's crossed. We review it at our level, and then once that's all done, then we can talk to you about scheduling a public hearing. And that's like one of the final steps in the process. So that's what I think as one board member here is, let's get that response done. Let's get Pat's conversation straightened out. And also, I think, because there is some conversation whether there is wetland or not on the property, and I know the definition of wetland seems to be
There's definitely wetlands on the
changing.
property along the brook. I don't think they're anywhere near what our setback would be. Our setback's a 50-foot setback. The state setback has always been 100 feet. So whether the state assumes control and asserts the 100-foot setback, I don't know.
I think we're fine, but I think we should also get our CAC to just weigh in on this as well. So we're here. Again, we're not, I want you to know that, we're not obstructionists, but we have to go through the steps to get to the end.
And this was my expectation tonight, to just introduce the project to you, procedurally commence secra, and then address all the comments in the memo.
So that's basically it. Any questions or comments from board members at this point?
But now we have to wait, we don't have to wait 90 days to,
So your guess is as good as mine, John. The statute
or does
give-
the applicant take the risk for that? Like,
So that's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
Could we move absent that, and it's their risk or not, or do we have to wait the statutory 90 days? I don't know.
Yeah, and
I don't
if the
see-
New York State says that they do have jurisdiction, then
Then
we
they
have
have
to,
another 90 days to render their decision on wetland permit, from what I understand. So theoretically, if they, and I think, I forget what they call it, but small local wetlands or something like that, they can assume control over it if they think they're significant in some way or another. So we've just added a half a year to a minor little application with a tiny little puddle in the backyard.
and you mentioned that it's the applicant's responsibility to
So-
notify them.
so I
Have you
think it
done that, or
is.
did you know about this, or?
The comments, but it does take, it is,
Into
seems
the
like,
record.
it seems like it's new to everybody, and they're also dealing with that. So
Okay.
they have their jurisdiction, they can determine if it's a vernal pool or anything, so they can determine actually the buffer. They have discretion to
Okay.
enlarge or decrease it, so.
So
But you
start-
have filed it with them already?
We started the conversation, and
Okay.
it does take about 90 days
Okay.
to.
Yeah, so if this application came to us October 1st, it would be a different conversation, which it is. I hate to be flippant, but it is what it is, and use that colloquial term. But,
You started the process.
Yes.
right. All right, so,
So the only question I would have before we leave you tonight is just that tail, because I mean, I did briefly just discuss with my client, they would prefer, I mean, again, it would just be easier on our end to leave it as is. And again, if this was a new subdivision, or if these lots were regularly shaped, I would, again, I would acquiesce and
What
understand.
are the thoughts of the board members on that tail piece?
Take it, me as one person, take it that they gotta go through this whole thing now. I really don't see the big deal for it, but that's just me.
Any other comments or questions?
The only, and I happen to like regularly shaped lots. The
I
only-
do.
The only change is they would have to adjust a lot line.
But
They're
they
going through
would,
the same process, same public hearing, whether it's the existing 2 lots of previous or the slight modification. So the only work is for the applicant to adjust a lot
Well,
line.
they-
by-
they-
So if they
have to
come back.
resurvey, right?
If they come back to the board for a public hearing, right? They gotta come back for a public
They
hearing,
do.
no matter what, right? And the surveyor has all the points already for this whole entire project. It's just a point of taking that little sliver and giving it to the other piece of property, right? By the time you come back for the public hearing, pretty much, I don't know what that conversation, they were saying, hey, not too, you gotta come back anyway.
There's no
There's no
delay.
question.
That's right, Joe.
So it's not like I get it, you gotta get the survey back, but it's minuscule compared to what,
Understood.
the
So-
whole other thing is.
let's just, you talk to your applicant about it. We are not going to tell you what to do or not to do. We really can't. But I think just in keeping with the practice of the board of encouraging that the lot lines stay logical and consistent, it just makes good neighbors and good practice. So we got one ball out of the ballpark. We have a few more to do. One's back in your court. You're going to have to get Pat Cleary's comments updated. We're going to have to go back to the CAC, get them engaged. You're going to have to talk to this DEP disaster.
that'll be great.
DEC, whatever this is.
May
Get
they
that
be
straightened
quicker
out.
than DOH.
I know.
Maybe by the time that comes around.
I know.
So I don't know. So we're here, and we're again. This is not a crazy application, and don't get too nervous. So, but we'll help you shepherd this through the process.
Perfect, very good. Thank you all for your
All right.
time. Appreciate it.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
Okay, next up on the agenda, our friends from the DEP, New York City DEP KEC contract for shoreline stabilization of the Kensico Reservoir to protect an additional 1,600 linear feet from storm-related turbidity near the reservoir intake upper effluent chamber, including the removal of the reservoir, removal of the cumulative sediments in support of the existing water supply use, grading and tree removal within the 50-foot wetland buffer. Application PSP 25-01, location Westlake Drive, Valhalla, section block number is 117.11-3-1, zone R40, and I know, John, you have to,
I'll be recusing myself.
yes, thank you, John, and we'll see you soon.
Have a good night.
Owner applicant, I forgot,
Good night, John.
New York City DEP, engineer architect Darcy Rosenthal, PE of CDM Smith. Okay, welcome back. You know, we if you come to us 10 times in a row, there's a prize. Awesome. I'll let you know what it is.
I'm Kevin Lloyd. I'm a Deputy Portfolio Manager with the New York City DEP. And I'm here tonight to talk about, again, the Kensico Eastview Connection Project and the fourth contract in that overall project. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I'll go through the project overview again, and then I want to spend some time on the sequence of the site plan applications because we've had many of them. So I just want to orient you to the scope that we're talking about tonight, the application that we have before you today. And then I'll get into the details of the fourth contract, which is shoreline stabilization. Okay, you've seen this slide before. So the Kensico Eastview Connection Project, it's essentially construction of a tunnel, and it provides a new connection from the Kensico Reservoir to our Catskill, Delaware UV facility in Eastview. So when we put that system online over a decade ago, we didn't have the hydraulic grade line or the pressure to continue using our Catskill aqueduct. So consequently, we are using just the one aqueduct, the Delaware aqueduct. So this new connection, it provides the redundancy in the system. It gets us to the full capacity of the UV facility, for future demand, and it provides operational flexibility. So we're just going to be talking about the Kensico site today. which is zoned for R40. Okay, so I went through that, but the overall project, it's a 2-mile deep rock tunnel with construction of 2 shafts at 2 different sites, Kensico and Eastview. We're working on now the subsurface utility easements for the tunnel. And this is part of the greater Hillview consent decree and judgment. So this is a predecessor project to the work that we need to do there for LT2, the EPA's Enhanced Surface Water Treatment Rule. Okay, so the first contract we put before you, that's the site prep. That's the work that we've been working on for 6 or 7 months now down the street. The next contract we put before you is actually 2. It's the second contract, Kenzie's 1, and the third contract, Kenzie's 3, at Eastview. So that's the shaft and tunnel and the connection building on top. And so that one you have adopted, and we're working on getting it endorsed. And then the next one is Kenzie's 1, our second contract. That's the one that you just voted on tonight. And then Kenzie's 3, we expect to, that's the second half of Kenzie's 3 that we're going to be sending to you later this year. So we want to talk about the fourth contract, shoreline stabilization. It's a support contract entirely at Kensico Reservoir, and it's similar to a site plan that we put before you 2017, 2018 that we finished a couple of years ago. Okay, so this is just the sequence of construction. The fourth contract, initially we were anticipating starting it later this year, but now we anticipate early 2026 that we would look to start construction. Okay, so on the left, you can see kind of the limit of disturbance. This is entirely the Kensico site. Columbus Avenue is on the left there. So you can see the limit of disturbance, that hatched area along the shoreline, and then we potentially have a fill area in, that's the Delaware aerator, so that's, you know, the mound that you see if you come down Lakeview Avenue.
Yep.
Okay, so the major activities, well, sorry, let me just start with the point of this one. I should have said that. As a result of Superstorm Sandy, we experienced some stormwater-induced erosion. Right, so we undertook that project in 2018 to harden the shoreline. So you can actually see some of that here, right? So that we finished a couple of years ago, and it's essentially installation of riprap, so stonework along the shoreline. Right, so we want to continue that work where we left off before and bring it up to, you can see the green area here at the top. That's where water enters the Catskill Aqueduct. So when we finish the project a number of years from now and we put the Catskill system back online, we want to have hardened the shoreline, and then we're also going to be doing some dredging work. I'll get into all of this.
So you want to harden?
Harden, yeah, so,
Okay.
so,
It's my hearing, not what you're saying.
sorry.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so it's basically installing stone, you know, so it reduces the potential for erosion.
Yep.
Okay, so we're working in that narrow strip of land between Westlake Drive and the reservoir shoreline itself. So the first, we would set up construction staging. I'll point that out later. We'll be doing regrading and earthwork, some tree removal. I'll talk about that. And then the shoreline stabilization itself. That's like that blue area up along the line there. And then in front of the UEC, the upper effluent chamber, that's that inlet into the Catskill Aqueduct, we'll be doing some removal of accumulated material. I'll talk about that too. And then on the far side of that cove, we have 2 existing turbidity curtains, so we'll be replacing that. And then finally, as part of site restoration, will be landscaping. All right, so this is the proposed staging. So now north is oriented to the right. You can see, so this is that structure, the upper effluent chamber there, and then you can see existing Westlake Drive. So just note that when we start this construction, the Westlake Drive that we're constructing now, that would be, we anticipate that we will have conveyed that to the town, and that roadway will be open to the public. So the staging area here, that would be within the contiguous DEP property, so we wouldn't have anyone driving past this site.
Kevin, I just have a question. The inlet, the upper effluent chamber?
Yep.
Is that like a drain in the bottom of a bathtub? Is it like a culvert? How does the water get into that?
Right, yeah, so it's actually fairly deep there, and there are channels that go in. There's, I believe, four different channels that go in full height. You know, we're talking 50 feet or something like that. And that's how they all enter in.
Vertical connections into the backwater.
Horizontal connections, right, yeah, yep.
Just curious.
I have before you go on, you're proposing to extend the riprap along that whole area. How wide is it, that area? Obviously steeply sloped, so how high is what you're going to put there, or are you just going to lay rock along it? Can you describe the actual work?
Sure, yeah, so you could see
Yep.
the existing, so it's kind of a continuation of that all along.
I can't tell, is that 40 feet, 10 feet?
Yeah, so the whole length is, I think, about 1,600 feet.
No, I mean
And-
the width of it.
Right. Yeah, I can't... Approximately 40 feet.
And it's, but what is it? The rock laying against it? You're building a wall? There's like whatever you have there.
A little,
Grade
yeah,
change?
a little of each. I'm going to get into that because that's important. Steep slopes is part of this application, so I do address that and why we're doing that, if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the staging area, we have a few different things going on here. Here is a wooded area. There are highly invasive species in this area. We cut in a new road, you see up there it says option 1, to provide access to the site. And then we construct a road along the waterway because it is just this very narrow strip of land to work with. The trailer staging is looking like it would be option 1 off the roadway there, but again, it would no longer be a public roadway. And then with contractor staging, I'll go into what that is. The contractor staging on the right, there's like that depressed area. If you're driving down the road, there's no trees there. It's all invasives. So we're going to be using that for stockpiling. And then the blue area, that's for dewatering. So there's 2 scenarios where we're dewatering for this job. It's while we do the shoreline stabilization work itself, and then also dredging in front of that effluent, the upper effluent chamber. We take out the accumulated material, we have to dewater it. We're going to do that on the shore there before we dispose of it. Okay.
So that dewatering area is temporary during construction of
Yes,
okay.
everything is temporary, and then we restore that entire area with plantings.
Okay.
Okay, so we're grading in the earthwork. So we're grading locations before the water line. As I said, oh no, I'm sorry. So we will be transporting material off-site. With this first contract, we talked about a balance site where we're trying to place all excavated material on site, minimize anything coming off-site. Well, we use up a lot of that area. So when we get to this contract, we've kind of used up most of our opportunity to place fill back within our site. So unfortunately, there will be material going off-site for this contract. We are looking into trying to store some material on the Delaware area. Again, that's the one you can see if you come down Lakeview Avenue. But it's hard to predict. You know, we don't, you know, we make an estimate of how much material we're going to get out of this first contract. We'll have to see how that goes, but that's an opportunity we're looking at. So the C-camp pile, the wall that we're talking about, that you asked about just before. So during construction, we have a couple of different walls that we have to construct. And it's so we can excavate to make basically a level road, a level access up along the entire shoreline because it is steep slopes, especially when you get towards the UEC. The C-camp pile wall, so that's a constructed wall, that would remain in place, but we'll partially backfill it. I think I say this later in the presentation, but once we're done with it and we restore slopes and we restore the site, a portion of that wall would be exposed, but it would be less than the town 6-foot maximum. Okay, so then you can see the estimated cut and fills there. We estimate about 30,000 cubic yards to be excavated, 28 to be removed, and then we're looking at maybe reusing 17,000 cubic yards from the stockpile area, but again, we'll have to see how that goes as the first contract progresses. Okay, so this is this is the bulk of the work. This is the shoreline stabilization. So the general idea is that we construct these cells. So we install sheeting, and they're about 100-foot width each cell. So we install sheeting along the shoreline one by one, so we can dewater it. And the idea is that we work in the dry, it reduces the risk of water quality issues, and it makes the construction just easier. So we would work, we would progress our way from one end to the other. The first thing we would do, though, is you can see like the wiggly lines on the bottom. That's 3 layers of turbidity curtains, so that's the first thing we do. We remove existing turbidity curtains. You may be able to see them along the shoreline. And install 3 new ones, and that's to prevent any turbidity discharges into the reservoir. So we construct these cells, and then we place the riprap by hand. So that's just stone. And then you can see on the very end, the north and south end, it's the green area. That would be done in the wet. We're not able to construct that in the dry, so we would be placing that in the wet. So it's a combination of excavation and then placing the geotextile fabric and then the riprap on top. Okay, so here's the steep slopes. The color is a bit of a misnomer. The red is actually fairly flat. So that's the southern end. And as you move up north towards UEC, you can see we get into steep slopes. So that's 15, 25, and 35%. So I talked about that before, where we have the temporary and the permanent walls. That's in part to do with the steep slopes, so we can do our construction.
So that road there, that just orient me. What's that
Sure.
road there? That's
Okay, so this is like the beach area. This is existing Westlake Drive.
Gotcha.
And then right here is the turnoff for the new relocated Westlake Drive, which you can now begin to see we're excavating in that
I see
area.
where you are. And quick question though, so that white area, that's where the Mount Everest is now. I'm just joking, the big mountain.
No, so That would be off the page, like above steep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood, okay.
Yeah, so sorry, this is, north is right.
No, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, so as you get close to UEC, you can see it gets much steeper. So just because of the nature of the existing conditions, there really is no alternative to dealing with this. No different approach to the grading. But when we're finished with this, we're not going to increase stormwater runoff. And the goal of this is that we reduce storm-induced erosion.
So this is just, essentially, and just interrupt you, because we've done this before with the shoreline stabilization, so it's
Correct.
It's going to look and feel the same thing. How you construct it is a whole big conversation, but it's going to be consistent in how it looks and feels, and you're just creating more stabilization.
Exactly, yeah, so the picture on the right is a rendering of what we propose to do. The pictures on the left are Chrome 543, what you've already approved, so you can see the peninsula, the end of the peninsula there, and you can see some of the turbidity curtains and the riprap, and then gravel on the bottom, and then some riprap being placed
Okay.
with turbidity curtains to the left of it, yeah.
Question.
Yep.
Out of the entire reservoir, what's the purpose of stabilizing this, only the 1,600 feet?
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't understand.
Right, so let me see. That's better, okay. So, I'm going to see if I can do a pointer. Okay, so we've been talking about the upper effluent chamber here. That's the entrance to the Catskill. And then down here is shaft 18. That's the connection to the Delaware. So that's where the water is coming in and going to the town and to the city. So let me do this. So the previous work stabilized the shore in this area, right? And the goal there is to the goal was to minimize erosion immediately in front of shaft 18. The Delaware Aqueduct, right, because that's what's in service now. So it's a similar goal. We stabilize the shoreline up to the entrance to the Catskill, and then reduce erosion into the reservoir near the Catskill, and then so that reduces turbidity going to the distribution system. So it's a water quality goal for the city and for the town. Okay, so this is, it's not a heat map. This is the UEC here, and the red area is where we propose dredging. So after we took this system offline, there's no longer water flowing through it. Sediment has accumulated on the bottom. There's actually like a channel there, so that's accumulated. So we would be going in with divers and like a work platform, and they would micro dredge, so they're just kind of sucking it up onto the platform, and they would dredge about 1,000 cubic yards, and we would do this work in a matter of weeks. And the raw material is taken to the shore to that blue part of the staging area, and it would be treated and fed through a filter press, so we can remove the solids and dispose of that. Okay, so there are two existing turbidity curtains. This is on the far side of the cove, and right here, this is Malcolm Brook. So it poses a risk of turbidity to our system. So we have these curtains in place as part of our filtration avoidance determination. And these are aging curtains, so we propose to replace them with one longer one that's more resilient.
Can you describe a turbidity curtain?
Sure. So it's actually a lot like what it sounds. You know, it's just a material that that goes into the water. Now there's floats on top, and then it'll be anchored on the bottom. So it's really just a curtain in the water. And the idea is that any suspended solids that come from Malcolm Brook, instead of short-circuiting right into the UAC, you know, it flows down that 1,300 feet to the bottom of the red there. And in that time, you know, that curtain acts as a barrier, and the suspended solids have more time to settle out.
What's it made of? Like a thick tarp? Okay. I'm just trying to picture it. Okay.
Yeah, so you can,
You've done that before.
yes, so as belts and suspenders for the site prep contract, because we are starting to work within the watershed there, we have installed a turbidity curtain right along the shoreline. So if you drive down Westlake Drive and you kind of just peek right at where the water starts, you can actually see the top of it. It's just like a bright yellow. It kind of looks like an oil building, you know, like something that we put out to like contain an oil spill or something like
Okay.
that. But it goes underwater.
It stays forever?
They don't last forever, no. So they do break down in the sun. So, I mean, conceptually, we want that in there, quote unquote, forever. But I would imagine periodically you'd have to replace them, like we're doing now.
Well, I learned something. I've lived in this town my entire... Did you know there's a Malcolm Brook?
No, I was,
I thought it was someone's name. I'm sorry. That's interesting. Did you know that? It's so interesting.
Okay. Okay, so there will be tree removal under this contract. And I just want to reflect back to when we talked about it for the first contract. You know, we look at tree removals holistically, and we look at tree mitigation holistically. You know, we talked about trying to delay tree removals as much as we can. You know, we know we had quite a bit of tree removal during this first contract at Kensico. This is an opportunity to delay it. So this is one where we did not touch any of the trees for Kensico site prep, but now that we're working in this area, you know, we need to move on and remove these trees, and that's it's really for staging and access. But we do restore the trees in this contract, and then again, holistically looking at the project in general, you know, we meet the town density requirements, and then we also meet the EAS commitments for tree mitigation.
So can we just dig into the numbers for a second? So I'm seeing that the proposal will result in the removal of less than 650 existing trees. You're going to cut them. You're going to cut them to the surface. That's what I'm reading, right? And then what's Chapter 201, Pat?
Our tree,
Our town. Okay.
that's the tree density factor provision. that
From the town.
Kevin referred to, yes.
So it says Chapter 201 are trees require that the full CEC project would plant 1322 trees. So that's all of your projects together. 1322 trees. Contract 4, including replanting 872 trees. The balance of the trees are to be provided in conjunction with Contract 3. So you're removing 650. So how many we were planting altogether?
I don't have that figure, Phil. I don't know if you do, but we think, so the town code, it's not about the number of trees, it's about the density of the trees.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to be doing.
For the shoreline, approximately over 800 trees.
It says 872.
Right, so, right, so I was saying 872 for shoreline, but
That's just this one.
I think you're asking for overall, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good metric to have.
Okay.
Before we, it would be, I don't think it'd be too hard for you to do. I don't think. I'm sitting here, I think it's not too hard, but if we can get an idea, it would be good for the town. Because I've been telling you guys all along, and you guys have been great doing it with me, is like I'm always looking for the win-wins, you know? And that's you're providing some environmental benefit by doing a replanting. So like, hey, look what we're doing, we're planting X number of trees.
Right.
If you'd like, I've got the numbers here.
Sure.
So Phil Simmons, DP with our Bureau of Environmental Planning and Analysis. So overall, if we look at all of the contracts, there will be, so as right now, there are 18.8 acres of existing forest areas, or before we started. 5.6 acres will remain. 3.9 acres of that will be reforested. So at the end, there'll be 9.5 acres forested at conclusion, and that's a net loss of 9.3 acres. And that's where we get our 2-to-1 mitigation ratio. So we'll mitigate at 18.6 acres.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, if we can add something, add a bullet here, or if you can squeeze it in, or add something in there just when we talk to the town,
Yep.
just, that would be a helpful metric. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Phil. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can approximate something as
I get that.
Right,
I get that, and you can use
I know.
word approximate too.
Yeah.
But you see where I'm going.
I do.
And Jim, and Phil confirmed, when this was all, when we looked at the EIS and so forth, that the actual numbers of trees in addition to the acreage is a known factor, so they can give you those numbers. I think that's right.
Yeah, it's just we're looking for the positive, right?
Yep. Okay. Okay, so wetlands and wetland buffer, we might have some homework on this, perhaps. So there are no DEC mapped wetlands in this contract, but we're clearly within the 50-foot town buffer.
I'm educating folks, so there are no longer DEC wetland maps.
Right.
They're no longer what?
The DEC no longer maps its wetlands. You have to go through this, so it used to be you just go online and see is there a DEC map wetland area. That map no longer exists.
This is all the January 1st thing. Okay.
Right, so as of December 31st, there are no DEC, yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah.
And we do have, though, a permanent loss of open water in SAV, that's submerged aquatic vegetation. So we have developed a wetland mitigation plan. We're working with the Army Corps on that to get that approved. Unfortunately, and this has come up with CAC and in previous presentations, there's not an opportunity for on-site mitigation, but we will meet the Army Corps' mitigation ratio for that. And the site we're looking at is Big Peninsula in
Out there.
North
yeah.
Castle.
Yeah. Know it well.
Okay, so dewater, I talked about this a little bit already. So that would be for the accumulated sediment from the UEC channel and then from the shoreline stabilization work itself. So there's 3 discharge options that we're considering. We'll work with the contractor. The first one is discharging to the county sewer on Westlake Drive. Assuming it meets their treatment standards, we would be limited to 15 gallons per minute. If we can meet the water quality restrictions, discharging it directly back to Kensico Reservoir, then there would be no limit on the quantity that we could discharge. And then the third option is discharging to the existing stormwater drainage system that we have on site. So that would be collected in a culvert that goes underneath Columbus Avenue, and then it discharges to Clove Brook and then Davis Brook. But that would be subject to the speedies that we have for that.
Is there a preferred, from your perspective, is there a preferred option?
Brian, do you have a preferred option?
Back to the reservoir, we can meet the water quality criteria.
That's the thing, yeah. So if we can meet it, then it's right there, and,
Okay.
and, you know, there's no limit to the contractor to how much they can push. But the question is if we can meet the
Right.
standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we go off
Yep.
watering, can you just tell us the distance from the dewatering area to the nearest residence? Don't need it now, but we'd like.
Okay.
Because, you know, dewatering can be a smelly operation, so.
Okay.
I'd like to be able to have that number at hand to say, well, you're 5,000 feet away, whatever it is.
Yeah, okay. I think it is going to be a big number, but it's a good to know. Yeah, absolutely. Noise, so we're on some noise studies that we presented in the past. We do not exceed the town code limits between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. We do have some exceedances in the south and west area of the site. If we truck into that area between the hours of 7 and 8, but like with the contract now, we would expect the noises to be temporary and transient. You know, we would like to work from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. We would work with the building department for a variance for that. But I feel as we have been demonstrating that we act as good neighbors. You know, we have had some complaints, and we have addressed those, and we've changed our operations. So, you know, we don't have issues.
What is the duration of construction for this phase?
So it's about 5 years, so I'll get into that. A good chunk of that,
5 years to build the wall?
right. So a good 2 years at the end of that is all the plantings that we do. We take 2 years to replace dead plantings, dead whatever, and treat invasives, so that at the end of the 2 years, so it's actually 3 years of planting, that we leave it in a good state for operations. And then also our overall construction schedule gets stretched out because of the numerous restrictions we have on work. We have eagle, we have bat, and warm-water fish too, I believe.
So there's a maintenance period on the end of the contract, but to build the actual wall is going to take how long?
Yeah, so we spend about a year and a half, 2 years just getting the site prepared, and then a year or two, you know, working on the shoreline itself.
Kevin, a quick question on noise. So you mentioned the dredging of 1,000 feet in front of the chamber.
Yep.
There's a platform and there's dredge equipment on that?
Yeah, so there would be a pump, so there would be noise for the pump. Yeah.
And that's out floating in the reservoir, right?
Yes.
Noise carries on the reservoir more than it does inland. Is that a concern? Is it an issue? How do you mitigate, sound attenuate a pump floating in the middle of the reservoir?
Yeah, so I
It's different.
believe, I don't want to jump on me if I get it wrong, but it would be electric, not gas pumps, so by nature it would not be as noisy.
Got it. Long extension cord.
Long extension cord, solar powered.
An electric pump in the middle of the reservoir.
Toaster in a bathtub?
Interesting.
That's right. Yeah, so we would, for that, you know, for the excavation work, you know, we have noise reduction devices, you know, where we can, we replace with electric powered equipment. Where we can, where practicable, we minimize backup alarms, but, you know, there is certainly a safety consideration that they're noisy for a reason. Keep them idling to no more than 3 minutes. Maintaining equipment, mufflers, etc. And where logistics allow, locate away and shield from sensitive receptors. And then, you know, last bullet there, you know, we want to hear from the residents. You know, we don't want it, you know, if there's a complaint, we want to address it. So, you know, we're going to continue working here. So we want to continue working with the town, and I feel like we've been doing a good job there.
Do we know how many complaints we have received on all of your contracts?
So it's just the first contract so far. I believe there were 2 official complaints that we addressed. And then at the last public hearing, one of the residents made a comment about starting early on a Saturday. And we had worked with the building department, so we were not working out of, it was between 7 and 8. So that's before town working hours, but we had permission to do it.
It's a good metric to have in our back pocket.
Yeah. So
Because
it's a 2.5.
out of the thousands of people that live in Valhalla, Mount Pleasant, we've received 3.
Right.
Right, so it's a good metric to have ready to share, I would
Okay.
think, from my perspective,
Yep.
Because it will
Thank
come
you.
up if we have a public hearing,
Yep.
so, okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay, well, we went through this already, kind of. So we're hoping to start this early next year. We would plan to work 1 shift, Monday to Friday, and we'd hope to be able to continue to start work at 7 a.m. That's just standard starting time for contractors. And then the equipment on site, generators, compressors, excavators, cranes, this is for the earthwork, the front end loaders, a lot of the stuff you're seeing out there now, just a much smaller scale. And that brings me to the end.
Well, thank you, Kevin, that was
Sure.
you always do a good job presenting, there's a lot of technical detail, and somehow you make it interesting, and
If I got it right.
well, and I knew about Clovebrook, I knew about Davis Brook, I never knew about I'm gonna Google this, Malcolm Brook, I never heard of this thing, it sounds like a character in a show, but we'll find out. Anyway, just being a little facetious for a moment. Any questions or comments from board members?
Kevin, if everything's going well with contract 1, how come you're starting this one after the original?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
So you've stated everything is going well, you're on schedule with the
Ahead of
first
schedule.
contract. Not on schedule.
Ahead of schedule.
Oh, ahead of schedule.
Yes.
Right. But you're starting this one after the original start date. Why is that?
It's just taking longer than we expected to get out. It's not related to the ongoing construction work. But we feel that, so this contract, we need to get this contract done before we get the last contract done, right? Because we're going to be working in the same area, and we need to get that dredging work done before we turn on the Catskill Aqueduct. And we are comfortable that even starting this one a little bit later, we're not going to impact the other contract that's depending on it.
So the final duration date stays in place? The end date?
That there, yeah, so, yeah, and then, so, but bear in mind that, that substantial completion date, we're done with dredging, we're done with the work on the shoreline, so we're kind of ready to go. It's really, buttoning everything up and, the 2 years of landscaping, yeah.
No, but what I meant is the duration of the overall project.
Oh, I'm sorry, correct, yeah, it's unchanged,
That's what I was...
sorry, yep.
Anything else from board members?
I have a comment, more for Pat, that many of the applications that come before this board, we're trying to protect wetlands, water resources, steep slopes, and this is interfering with all of that. So in any resolution that's drafted, give us a reason, that distinguishes this from a homeowner coming in and wanting to do something on their steep slopes or wetlands
Yeah,
or brook.
obviously, the distinction is obvious with respect to the water supply as opposed to a natural.
A public good, or, yeah.
Yep, a good point.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I have a few comments. Anything down here? Okay, just, I keep bringing it up, like, what is good, and I think what is good here is the trees and the tree plan, and I think we should have the CAC continue to get involved with this, because not all trees are equal in the replanting. And I know you guys that's what you guys do, but it's a good practice to include, from our perspective, the CAC to have their input there, and to make sure that the tree replanting plan and all the tree changes happen appropriately. I see in Pat's comments the town's wetland consultant should be retained to address these impacts and the proposed mitigation measures. So Pat, we have a wetland consultant now?
So we have an RFP to retain a wetland consultant now.
Okay, so that will have to happen as well. The replanting, yeah, I like that story. It's a compelling story that you're telling. And finally, the new access driveway, temporary access roadways proposed for Westlake Drive. Removal of this road and site restoration should be more fully documented. So that was a Pat Cleary's note, which you've probably seen. So before we go to public hearing, well, in my opinion, to prepare for the public hearing, to rephrase that, let's have that I dotted and the T crossed.
Absolutely, yes.
And that's
And-
homage to your predecessor, which was when DEP did work, it left stuff behind.
Yep.
So we just want to make sure when any work is done, there's nothing left behind other than a pristine site.
Okay, and if there's lessons learned from that, we'd love to hear it.
And I'm going to ask you, it's unrelated, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because I feel it's going to come up at some point, and we just need to be prepared for the answer. We need to be prepared with an answer. And I forget, help me remember, that mountain of dirt that's there now, does that stay? That's on Columbus Avenue now, or opposite Lakeview Avenue?
Yes, but not as a mountain of dirt. So depending on that, it's more or less the final grade on
Yeah.
both sides. Depending on when you drive by, there could be a smaller mountain that sticks up a lot higher. That would be temporary, but basically what you see is what you get now, except we haven't done the final plantings, right? So it's going to be a mix of meadow mix, so, native plantings, turf on the outside, shrubs, trees, so, we're very mindful of the viewscape
And I know
there.
we've reviewed it, but sometimes you need a memory refresh, so thank you.
It is a bit shocking seeing it
It is.
in real life.
As my predecessor used to say, when I'm in ACME, people are going to ask me the question, I want to be prepared for the answer. So, or if they come here, more importantly, if they come here and they ask us the question, we can have an intelligent conversation, so thank you. So, okay, one final call. Any final comments, questions? Okay, so we have this application here. We have a couple of I's to dot and T's to cross, but I don't think they're insurmountable. From a staff perspective, you're good?
So we did not yet get David's comments, so we need the engineering comments before you move to public hearing.
Gotcha.
So we're one step away.
Okay, so we'll get Dave's comments, and other than that, I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you for coming out again on this icy night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.